The numbers are staggering. By the end of 2025, more than 10,000 jobs at Ontario colleges are expected to be eliminated. Over the past year alone, more than 600 academic programs have been cancelled or suspended. According to the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, this represents one of the largest mass layoffs in Ontario's history. Classrooms are closing, entire departments are disappearing, and across the province, Ontario's public college system is breaking apart in real time. What makes this crisis so severe is not just the scale of the cuts, but how quickly and quietly they are happening. There has been no single announcement, no centralized reckoning. Instead, layoffs had rolled out campus by campus, department by department, leaving workers, students, and communities scrambling. Roughly 1 in 6 college workers is being pushed out. Campuses that once operated at full capacity are now running in survival mode. At the same time, more than 600 programs, many tied directly to in-demand jobs, are being erased. Healthcare training is being cut while hospitals face staffing shortages. Trades programs are shrinking as construction demand rises. Journalism, music, social services, and technical training programs are vanishing across the province. At Centennial College alone, 49 programs, nearly 28% of its offerings, were suspended in a single round. Other colleges report enrollment drops of 40 to 50%, forcing mid-cycle closures that leave students stranded without clear alternatives. This collapse didn't happen overnight. The trigger: international student caps. In January 2024, the federal government cut international student permits for Ontario by 35%, followed by another 10% reduction for 2025. The impact was immediate. International enrollment across Ontario colleges fell by nearly 48%, wiping out what had become the primary revenue source for many institutions. Sector-wide, colleges are now facing an estimated $3 billion revenue loss over 2 years. At Centennial College alone, roughly 5,000 international students disappeared in a single cycle. At some colleges, overall enrollment fell by more than 40% within months, forcing emergency budget decisions almost overnight. The collapse exposed a structural weakness years in the making. Between 2012 and 2021, international enrollment at Ontario colleges surged 342%. On some campuses, 60 to 84% of students were international, turning tuition fees into the dominant funding stream. When the cap hit, budgets collapsed instantly. Provincial funding, the long-term pressure. While international dependency grew, provincial funding did not. In 2019, Ontario cut domestic tuition by 10% and froze it indefinitely. That freeze remains in place today. Meanwhile, inflation surged, operating costs rose, and public funding stayed flat. Ontario now provides about $11,471 per student, compared to a national average of more than $20,700. That puts Ontario at roughly 57% of peer provinces. Between 2018 and 2022, colleges lost over $1.1 billion in real funding power, pushing institutions deeper into reliance on international tuition just to survive. By 2024, international student fees generated $3.3 billion, surpassing provincial funding and domestic tuition combined. Government support no longer anchored the system, volatile tuition flows did. The contradiction: surpluses amid layoffs. Here's where the crisis becomes deeply contentious. Despite mass layoffs, Ontario's college system was sitting on $2.7 billion in accumulated surplus in 2023-2024. The year before, colleges posted $660 million in surplus on $8.7 billion in revenue. Every single public college finished in the black. System-wide surplus margins climbed to around 13%, up from just 4% a few years earlier. During the international student boom, profitability didn't just rise, it tripled. Yet instead of using these reserves to stabilize programs and protect jobs, colleges moved directly to layoffs and closures. At the same time, executive compensation rose sharply. At Conestoga College, presidential pay jumped 29% in a single year to $630,000. Presidents at Humber and Seneca ran close to $500,000 annually, more than 3 times the salary of Ontario's premier. Capital projects continued, campuses expanded, buildings were renovated, but classrooms closed, programs vanished, and workers were told there was no money. Community fallout. The damage doesn't stop at campus gates. Colleges are often the largest employers in their regions. When programs close, students leave. Housing demand drops. Local businesses lose customers. In northern and rural Ontario, entire communities are already absorbing economic losses. Some campuses are disappearing entirely. Seneca shut its Markham campus. Algonquin confirmed the Perth campus will close by 2026. Loyalist cut 20% of its workforce. Northern College projects a 35% revenue decline, threatening campuses in Kirkland Lake and Moosonee. In these regions, the college is often the only local access point to post-secondary education. When it closes, students face long commutes, higher costs, or dropping out altogether. The workforce crisis ahead. This is what the crisis really produces. Ontario depends on colleges to train nurses, trades workers, technicians, early childhood educators, and social service professionals. As programs shut down, training pipelines narrow just as demand rises. The result is not theoretical. It shows up as staff shortages, delayed projects, longer wait times, and rising costs across the economy.
Once training capacity shrinks, recovery takes years, not months. Responsibility at every level. The federal government triggered the enrollment shock. The province left colleges structurally exposed for years. College administrations chose how to respond when the pressure hit. Together, those decisions produced a system where financial cushions exist on paper, while workers, students, and communities absorb the impact. More layoffs are coming. More programs remain under review. More campuses face consolidation or closure. Each cut reduces capacity. Each closure narrows access. And each delay deepens Ontario's workforce crisis. Once those pipelines collapse, rebuilding them will take a generation.